Hello, in this video we are going to write a response for this long response question from this sample test. And so we're going to write a program which first takes an integer input greater than 0 into a variable called num. The program should then go on to take num inputs of type float from the user. The program should output the largest value, smallest value, and the difference between the largest and smallest value. You cannot make any assumptions about the largest or smallest value. Alright, so I already have a solution coded up here, so I'm going to pop it up. I'm actually going to delete it, and we're going to start again from scratch. So the thing about this question, that the first thing I identify is that it's saying that we're going to take an input n and take n inputs. So since we know in advance how many inputs we need to take, the best choice here is to use a counted loop. Remember, the general rule is that if you know in advance how many times a loop should run, a counted loop is your better option. If you don't know, if you don't know in advance, a conditional loop. These loops are completely interchangeable, but generally following this kind of consideration makes it a lot easier to code. So we're going to make a variable n, and we're going to say it's an int input number of values. And then I can come down here and I can make a for loop for I in range 0, n, 1. Count, check, change. And I can do value equals int input number. So if I run this now, input number of values to take 2, and then I can go 1, 2 in the program. Oh, it's running my old version of it, so let's run this again there. But number of values to take 2, 1, 2, and the program's done. If I run this, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the program's done. Now, notice if I run this program and I put a negative value in, it doesn't actually enter the loop because it fails right away. Now what we could do, this is a good opportunity to introduce a conditional loop because it can help us ensure that a positive value of n is entered. So one way to do this is I could put something here while n is less than or equal to 0. We're going to say n equals int input value must be greater than 0. Input again. So what I've done now is I've kind of made this a little bit more robust in that if the user enters a value for n here, which is less than 0, this condition will be true, meaning it's going to then ask again. So now if I run this, I could put like -2, and notice how it kind of keeps asking me this. So now I'm going to put 5, and then it goes into that loop. So the next thing this program has to do is to find the maximum minimum. So I'm going to set this up, but I'm actually going to set it up slightly wrong, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to make two variables to hold the max and min. It actually is the exact same concept, just we use max versus min in terms of calculating. And what I'm going to do is every time I take an input, I'm going to check to see if it's the new max or the new min. And I can do that by simply saying if val is greater than max, we can say max equals val. And I say if val is less than min, we can say min equals val. Now, this is one approach to do it. I'll show another way to do it in a second. But we actually have a bit of a logic error here. If I run this right now, input number of values to put, and I'm going to put, say, 3 values. Oh, I have to print out max and min. So let's print maximum s plus str bracket max, print minimum plus str bracket min. There we go. So if I run this now and I say I'm going to put in, 3 values, and I go 1, 2, 3, I get the maximum, but I don't get the minimum. And the reason why I have that error here is because of the fact that what's happening, because I've initialized minimum to 0, the problem that's going to happen is that, notice I don't input anything less than 0, so it actually never overwrites it. And this is a really important concept in the larger scope of things. and this is that anytime we are finding max or min, you always set the max / min to the first input. So I'm going to say here, if I is equivalent to 0, meaning it's the first input, max is equal to val, min is equal to val. And what this does for me now is that the very first input the user puts, that sets the max and min accordingly. So if I run this now, I need my colon, and I run this now, I give that a whirl, and I say 1, 2, notice my max and min both get set. This is a really big idea in the context of computer science in general. It's really important if you're dealing with lists of things that always set your max or your min to an element within the list, because by doing that you don't actually have to know what the actual range of values might be. So let's just take a second and we're going to take a look at this section here where I find the maximum minimum. I'm going to comment it out for a second using this notation. Remember, a nice little trick here is when you put your second set, put a hashtag. I could do it like this. I could do max equals max, comma, val, min equals min, comma, val. So I can use the max or min function to actually calculate the max or min between a couple values. And this is a nice way to do it without a conditional structure. So if I run this now, input the number of values. We're going to take 4 values, and I'm going to say -5, 3. Where's my problem? Let's see if I can find this problem. Okay, I had to pause that for a minute to figure that out. This is a new thing I haven't run into before. It seemed because I had a variable called max, and I tried to call the maximum function, it got confused. So my fix here was I had to change this to minimum. I changed maximum variable to the word maximum, and then minimum variable to the word minimum, and then it called it. So I think what was happening was because when it saw the word max, it was thinking about a variable, but it wasn't calling the function. That said, so just get back on track here. You can always find the maximum or minimum of multiple values by using the built-in function max or min. So this approach works as well and is actually quite nice. So if I take 3 values and I say 1, 2, 3, there's my maximum, there's my minimum. The last step of this problem is to calculate the difference, and the difference is going to equal to the maximum minus the minimum. And then I'm going to print difference. So if we run this, I'm going to take 6 values, and I'm going to put 5, -4, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Maximum is 5, minimum is -4, and the difference is 9. I hope this video helped, and if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.